Deb, Tom, hello.
Good morning.
Welcome.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Better for talking to you. As you know, this is Curiosity Friday, and I called you, Deb. We talked last week, and I
Uh-huh.
know that there's probably just a very fine line between curiosity and creativity. So we can talk about either or any today. Um, the congregation knows the two of you as artists, and I know you have several mediums that you use.
hmm
Um, Talk about yourself and the art that you do. Let's start briefly there.
Okay, well, I think most people know I'm a fiber artist. I did the the quilts that hang at the front of the church, among other things. I'm also a painter, and I like to do things with found objects. And a lot of inspiration comes from our walks and from found objects and different things that we found. What are you going to do with them? I actually brought some examples. So this is a pair of sunglasses found on the beach, Myrtle Beach, about a month ago before everything closed up. You cannot see through them at all. They're completely sand washed with barnacles. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them, but I couldn't pass them up.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, let's come back to the minute. Tom?
Well, as Deb pointed out, we have bins and bins of found objects from the alleys, from parking lots, wherever strange little things appear, walking the beach. Dumpster diving is sort of the urban equivalent of beachcombing.
Yeah.
For art, mostly I'm a painter. I paint largely in acrylics, sometimes in watercolor. And Deb got me into fiber quilt making, in 2006. So that's 14 years ago. So I do, a quilt or two every year on an art quilt. So, always something going on. One of the things I do, instead of relying on little objects that I find, I take notebooks with me whenever I think I'm going to be out somewhere where there's inspirations. So when I go to galleries, museums, I go to church services, I have one in my pocket then, because there may be a word or a phrase that just sparks an idea. And it's not that I'm ever going to bring every one of those ideas to fruition. It's that they're there. It's a record, so that I don't have to rely on fading memories or whatever. Oh, gee, what was that word again? I've got it. So
that's
one of the things we like to do when we do a lot of road trips. We go to Massachusetts and all that. And the road trips can get boring after a while, but we still talk a lot after however many 47 years marriage. And one of the things we like to do is make up what we call bumper stickers as we go along. And so we might be talking about something, and I don't have any with me, but, just something bizarre that we see, and, just write down the words. And it's like when you put two things together, either something you've seen with something else you've seen, or two words you've heard together, and you try to make sense out of them in a nonsensical way. And that's just a way of bringing forth some creative thought just on the spur.
Or we get amused at other people's creativity. I remember driving in Ottawa, Canada, and it was morning rush hour, and we were following a car that had a bumper sticker that said, "The subliminal thought for today is."
No, I can't say I've ever seen that bumper sticker. That's wonderful. Or should I say sublime? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Deb, when you and I were talking to see if this might materialize, I mentioned, most of what I do is writing. And I asked if you ever had something akin to what I know of as writer's block. And you had a response that really fascinated me. Can you tell the people what that was or expand?
Possibly.
All right.
Today it might be different. Let's see.
Sure.
I think what I said was writer's block. How can you have writer's block? You just put words together, and words are all over the place. I know it's more complicated than that, and I don't mean to
Not
insult
really.
writers. But what I do is I take a couple things and see where they move me. Two pieces of fabric. What do they look like? It's about the relationship of the two things. I'm building on that relationship. So if one's dark and one's light, then do I want to add a color or do I want to add more dark and light? What shapes do they want to be? How do I do this? So whenever I have a block of any sort, I find something I like, fabulous piece of fabric, has a wonderful design on it. Okay, what else could I pull out to go with that? Oh, look, this brings out the purple in that. I want to put these two together. And it just gets me on a roll. Now, it doesn't get me to an end point by any means. It just gets me going.
Tom, do you have something similar, or how does your creative process work? I know that's a big, impossible question.
I don't know that I experience blocks that often because
You're lucky.
one of my problems is ideas keep popping in my head. A word, a phrase, an image, a cartoon, somebody else's art. I was in a training class once about the internet for artists, and we had a breakout group where one of the artists who was sharing showed his webpage, and on it he had drawn animated, cartoon type characters, but there was the word chaos in it, and it just clicked with me. I said, I need to do a series of artworks on the theme of chaos. And so that launched me into an exploration of, well, what is chaos? And then with the first piece that I did, realized that an artist can never depict chaos because the instant you put brush to canvas, word to paper, note to musical manuscript, you've created order. But it was a fun exercise, and I go back to it periodically. I think I've got about 7 or 8 pieces on the theme of chaos.
Wow.
So ideas just pop.
Oh, that's
One of
fabulous.
the things about finding ideas, it's sort of like improvisational humor, comedy. Oh, I've got this, and what else? What else can I do with it? And what else? And when we're doing art, we consider whatever kind of art, whether it's writing or dancing or anything, consider all of our senses. So you look at something and you say, ooh, I wonder what that smells like. What would that taste like? Or what looks like that's food? And you start broadening out what it is you're looking at, because how can I expand this? How can I make it bigger? And one of the easiest ways for me is to go through all the senses. I want a better texture. I want more texture. And a lot of my quilts have a lot of texture in them. So it's a matter of balance, another sense. How do we create balance in it? What sounds am I trying to elicit? I did a quilt of talking drums. It was an African-based quilt. And how do you get the sounds in that? Well, that was through the stitching, and it went kind of crazy all over the place. So.
And I think there's a couple of key words to consider in both curiosity and creativity. One is risk, being willing to take a risk of failure, that something isn't going to work or that you'll get criticized. Another word is play.
Yeah.
Creativity is about playing with things, playing with ideas, playing with materials. And I guess, for curiosity, how do you expand your curiosity, whatever? Be open. Be open to the world around you. One of the things I remember counseling some young artists about being creative is go to the library and get out a book of Gary Larson cartoons. I mean, he looked at the world through such an amazing lens. He would take an ordinary scene and turn it on its head and come up with some totally bizarre new concept. That's creativity.
We are living in a time, and I think this will continue for weeks at this point, of social isolation, social distancing necessary. but still comes with a cost. And right now, in my sense, in the rare times that I'm out and about, people seem to be behaving very well, and I absolutely hope that that continues.
Mhm.
My sense is that we are going to need to stay um, fresh and open
Mhm.
to ourselves and one another, despite the understandable anxieties, if not outright fears. Um, if a person doesn't see themselves, herself, hisself, as being creative, what would you say to them? What would you say to them? Whether it be advice or, you mentioned a lot of techniques which sound like they've become part of your thinking and part of your blood about, oh, what would that smell like? Most of us, I hazard to say, don't think in those terms. Um, what would you say to someone who doesn't feel necessarily like a creative person or is having trouble giving birth to their creativity?
Tom said it a minute ago, play.
Mm,
And play with things, play with materials, play with things you've never played with before. Get a piece of paper, wet it, get a little paint box, scooch around the paints, get your brush loaded, plop it on the paper and watch it move. Just play, play with colors, play with lines, doodle. Mo Willems, Willem, has he's a children's book author, among other things. He also, I think, wrote for Saturday Night Live. He has a daily YouTube for children, and it's called Mo Willems Doodles. And
I'm
he
writing a
does
note.
it, and he's the one that wrote "Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus."
Okay.
And so it's all his doodles. You can doodle. You don't have to doodle like anybody else. You're doodling like you. You may look at it and be super self-critical. This isn't anything. It isn't about the product. It's about the process.
Mm,
And I think the whole thing right now about why we're doing so well is we've all gotten into process. We are walking, we are cooking, we are reading, we are singing, we are doing. We're not singing a song, writing a book, or going to a place. It's all about process, not about the final product. And if we can stay in that mind, we'll be better off when this is all over.
I mean, and if you don't want to splash colors, take that same piece of paper and make a paper airplane and see how far it'll fly. And then make another one and see if it'll fly farther, or do loops. And there's so many resources online.
Mhm.
Like the Mo Willems videos are being hosted by the Kennedy Center.
oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, all the great museums now have free exhibitions. You can tour 2,500 art museums of the world for free. It's all out there, and I'll send you some links, Eric.
Terrific. I'll be very happy to include them in this week's post. I've got you guys talking for about twice as long as I told you I might. We have covered great ground. Don't be surprised if I ask to have you come back again. But thank you both for your time and your insights and your creativity.
Thank
I
you,
love
Eric.
the idea of just play.